And the thing is, it's not that failures or mistakes are necessarily bad things. It's the judgments that we make about those things that really can hold us back from making progress.
You're listening to
Path of the Jedi
with your host, Ronnie Cruz.
All right, welcome to Path of the Jedi, the podcast where Star Wars meets personal development. Bright sun citizens. Today, as I mentioned last week, we have another shotgun episode, so let's just get right into it. For today's topic, we are going to cover the theme of making personal changes, and I'll be pulling from two separate Clone Wars fortune cookies. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with these fortune cookies, they are quotes that come at the beginning of each episode of Star Wars, The Clone Wars. That's an animated series that you can find on the Disney Plus streaming service. And basically, these quotes are just thematic lessons, that they highlight or summarize what we can expect in each episode. And for me, yet another reason to love Star Wars, The Clone Wars. The first fortune cookie comes from Season 7, Episode 7, and it's titled Dangerous Debt. And the quote is, "Who you were does not have to define who you are." There are two angles that I want to explore with this particular quote. The first one we've touched on a little bit actually in past shows, and that's the fact that we're not fixed, right? We don't have to quote unquote be set in our ways. We can change. And in fact, we are changing whether we know it or not, because our brains are wired to do this. As human beings, our brains are wired to adapt, right? So if we're not growing and changing intentionally, our minds, our unconscious minds, are picking up cues and signals from our environment, things that we talk about in the past, right? The environment, the conditioning, the significant emotional events, and they are creating new identities for us, right? They're helping us adapt as we go through life. So if we're going to do it anyways, my point is we might as well do it intentionally so that we have the outcomes, so that we can create the outcomes that we want in life. And like the quote says, who you were does not have to define who you are. The personal changes that we make in ourselves does not have to be defined nor limited by who we were in the past, right? By the things that we went through in the past, by who we were and the things that we did in the past. And that kind of leads me to the second angle that I wanted to explore with this particular quote, is that anytime moving forward when we're trying to make changes, we can often be very, very tough on ourselves, right? We can be pretty hard on ourselves and very, very judgmental. We fall into this trap of judging our ability to make positive changes moving forward by looking at the things that we might see as shortcomings from the past, failures in the past, mistakes that we've made in the past. Over time, this can be really detrimental to your self-worth and self-esteem. And the thing is, it's not that failures or mistakes are necessarily bad things. It's the judgments that we make about those things that really can hold us back from making progress. So if you want to make a change in your life, you have to forgive yourself. Give yourself some grace. If you've made any mistakes in the past, see what lessons you can learn from them and move on, because who you were does not have to define who you are. Okay, the next quote comes actually from the episode right after this one. That is Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 8. The episode title is Together Again, and the quote is, "You can change who you are, but you cannot run from yourself." On the surface, these two quotes might appear to contradict themselves, but allow me to explain. When we set off to make changes and improvements in our lives, the tendency is to change the external things first, thinking that changing those external things are what's going to bring us more happiness and more fulfillment, right? If I changed how I look, maybe I'll be happier. If I change my job, maybe I'll be more fulfilled. If I make more money, maybe I'll be more happy and fulfilled. And those things are all well and good, but in my observation and experience, they're never lasting. Let's take weight loss, for example. In my career in health and wellness over the years, I've seen people have tremendous results in their weight loss journeys, right? However, since they approached it from changing the external first, right? Changing the appearance and changing the numbers on the scale, and not working to change their relationship with food and their identity around health and nutrition, what inevitably ends up happening is that they gain all the weight back, and sometimes even more. Another example is with careers, and even specifically with network marketing. When people feel like they're not making any progress in their career or in their network marketing company, what they'll do is they'll jump and change network marketing companies or change careers, thinking that in the new situation, they're going to get better results and more success. Well, guess what? When you move to a new job or you move to a new network marketing company, you're taking you with you. And in the short term, that change might have done you a little good, but in the long term, what'll end up happening is that you're going to get the same results that you got in the previous situation. I mean, have you ever met anybody whose life was a little bit of a mess and they decide to relocate to get a fresh start? Initially, the relocation is great and it does them a lot of good. However, over time, what you'll end up finding is they're back in the same mess all over again, except this time it's in a different place with different people. Because when you move, you take your metaphorical baggage with you. Really, what this quote from Clone Wars is saying is that you can change who you are externally, but you can't run away from who you are internally. So can you make changes in your life? Can you make improvements in your situation? Can you get different results than what you have now? Absolutely. But if you want any of those changes to be lasting, it has to come from the internal first. It has to come from you. So forgive your past. Give yourself grace. And move forward knowing that who you become on the inside is what will determine what you have and where you'll be on the outside. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode. And you know what, guys? As I was finishing this up, I realized that this theme for today, the topic for today, is very much the reason why I do this podcast in the first place, to help you, even to help myself, grow and change from the inside out versus outside in. So hopefully it's helping, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Hit me up on Facebook or Instagram. It's at POTJ podcast. I want to actually, here's a question for you guys. What are some changes you're trying to make in your life that either, number one, you're coming up against some roadblocks, or number two, you're springing back to where you started? It's one of those one step forward, two step back kind of situations. Let us know. Perhaps we can help you get through any particular roadblock that you might be experiencing right now. Again, on Facebook and Twitter, it's at POTJ podcast. And of course, you can always send an email or an MP3 to info@pathofthejedi.com. Coming up in the next 2 episodes or so, we're finally going to be tackling the Jedi Code. And I can't believe I haven't thought of this sooner. How could I have a podcast called Path of the Jedi and not talk about the Jedi Code? So be expecting that in the next couple of episodes. And then in December, we're going to be changing things up and do themes and lessons from Harry Potter. That's right, Harry Potter. My sister and I think we started last year, but leading up to the holidays, we do a Harry Potter marathon. I don't know, there's something for us very Christmassy about the Harry Potter movies. So I figured, why not take this opportunity to switch things up a little bit for the holidays and do lessons and themes from the Harry Potter film franchise. So expect that in December, and then after that we'll take a holiday break and kick things off again with some more Star Wars in the new year, which brings me to my final message today, and that is the shout out. Of course, guys, you can't think that I was going to forget the shout out, right? This week's shout out goes to my nephew, Jacob DeLeon. That's right, Jacob DeLeon. I had the opportunity to spend some time with Jacob recently, and I wanted to give him a shout out for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm just super proud of the young man he's become. He's developed a curiosity and inquisitiveness that has helped really expand his perspective and set him on his own personal growth journey. So I love seeing this process happen, especially in somebody as young as him. And then number two, in our discussion, he was asking me about my process here with this podcast at Path of the Jedi. And in doing so, it actually inspired me and gave me some great ideas for the new year and how I'm going to approach doing these episodes moving forward. So again, Jacob, thank you so much. I really enjoyed getting a chance to spend time with you, and I look forward to doing it again soon. In the meantime, this shout out goes to you. All right, well, I got to run for now, guys. We will catch you next week with a new, fresh episode. Until then, be well, be safe, and may the Force be with you. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company nor Lucasfilm Limited and is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names and sounds and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is intellectual property of Path of the Jedi unless otherwise indicated.